Briana Aldridge joined by Garrett Podell with CBS Sports, and we have a very exciting matchup. Eagles coming to AT&T Stadium, and Garrett, this is the point of the season that it matters if they win or not, because if it's going to feel gloomy and doomy like it did this time last season when the Cowboys had a 1% chance of winning the playoffs, it's going to feel pretty hard to finish the season out.
Absolutely, Bree. And according to CBS Sports line projections, the Dallas Cowboys don't have a 1% chance. They have a 5% chance. So they're in a slightly better spot this year than they were last year, had to face the Eagles here in Week 12.
I like how you put that positivity, Garrett. It's holiday season. There's Christmas decorations here at the Star, so we're going to think positive. So you were standing right there when Dak spoke today. We heard from a couple different leaders, but what kind of stood out to you on what number 4 said today?
I mean, I think if we're just talking about the matchup here, the biggest thing is Eagles Pro Bowl defensive tackle Jaylen Carter. He's going to play. We're presuming he doesn't spit on Dak Prescott again and get ejected right off the bat to play this time. And I asked Dak directly, I said, what are you going to say to him when you see him on the field? And he looked at me and said, well, depends what he says, but it'll be something friendly. He's going to try and get on his good side. But on a serious note, Jaylen Carter playing this time around is going to be a major impact because the Eagles' defensive EPA, expected points added per play, when Carter's in the game is 0.16. That's the best in the NFL. And then when he's off the field, it's negative 0.16, which would be the second worst in the entire NFL. Only the Cincinnati Bengals defense at negative 0.17 is lower. So basically, when Carter's on the field, they're the best defense in football. And when they're not, they're just as bad as the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, didn't really have to worry about him because he was out very quickly in Week 1 when they faced each other. And I thought it was interesting when Clayton Adams basically said that their game plan didn't change much when he came out. And I was like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a great thing for a coach to say at the podium, but there's no way you're convincing me that the heart of a defense is removed and you're not maybe going to run it up the middle a little more, Javonte Williams. So I definitely think the way they block and scheme and pull guys is going to have a big impact.
Now, I will say Week 1 was a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
A lot has changed for both sides, to be fair, but I want to just kind of stick with the offense. That's what I'm looking forward to because I feel like this is going to be the Cowboys' toughest match this season when you're talking about who's defending them, maybe outside the Broncos, right? But CeeDee Lamb had his worst game that day.
Career high 4 drops.
Not good.
Not good.
And then Pickens, that was his first game, as a Dallas Cowboy. He's emerged completely. We saw what he was able to do when CD got out and using him inside, outside, all over the place. He's been magnificent. So how much do you think these two can take advantage of a very strong defense on that side? So it's not going to be easy, we know, but there is a weak link, if you will, when you're talking about the secondary of the Eagles.
Yeah, I think it's a lot different this time around, to your point. I mean, George Pickens had a handful of catches for around 60 yards. Now he has 908 yards total this season, number 2 in the entire NFL, and the most ever in a player's first 10 games with the Cowboys. I mean, people have talked about Amari Cooper as a standard of instant impact wide receiver when Dallas traded for him years ago in 2018. George Pickens has surpassed that, which is pretty incredible to be talking about. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they attack over the middle of the field because there's Quinyon Mitchell, one of their outside corners, first-round pick from a couple of years ago. He's really good. Cooper DeJean, kind of hybrid safety corner. He's really come along. But that kind of nickel corner spot, that third corner, that's a little bit of a weak spot. And CeeDee Lamb for years has been one of the most prominent slot wide receivers when lined up in the slot in terms of his yards and catches. So whether it's Pickens or Lamb in the slot, I think that's a really big matchup that Dak Prescott's going to look for on Sunday.
Talking earlier with some people in-house, it seems like the only weak spot, like I said, I put in quotes, would be Adoree Jackson, and that's putting it lightly because he would probably be number 1 to other teams in the NFL. One thing that they know how to do on the Eagles side is draft defensively, have some cheap labor, and it has paid off immensely for this defensive team. But the offense is kind of struggling with the Eagles, who 26 points, 2 games, not very impressive.
Yeah, and I asked Brian Schottenheimer directly, what would you say about the Eagles, who we've seen some of the comps out of Philadelphia, A.J. Brown saying, if you had me in fantasy, you should drop me. And so Brian Schottenheimer said to me when I asked him about it that I don't see this as an offense that's struggling. I see it as an offense that is dangerous. And I think why he said that is I go back to a couple weeks ago when the Eagles were playing the Green Bay Packers on Monday Night Football. Their passing game had been kind of largely ineffective all game, and then all of a sudden there's Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith for a touchdown of over 50 yards, kind of give them the separation they needed to hang on in a one-possession win over the Packers. So I think it's one of those things where they could be struggling for a long time in the game, but then that quick strike could happen at any moment.
The Eagles offense is doing just enough because that defense is keeping them in, and you're seeing that week after week. And as much as Cowboys fans say that the Eagles are going downhill, they're still 8-2. So we will only tell come Sunday when the Eagles come to AT&T Stadium. But that's it for now. For Briana Aldridge, for Garrett Podell.